Okay, we are with my colleague. Thank you very much for the interview. We are with Luca Vicini. Thank you very much. Ivano Rossato and Eugenio Mirti. Okay, my colleague is the leader and producer and composer of Snarky Puppy, the most interesting band in jazz nowadays. And Luca Vicini is the bass player from Subsonica. Subsonica, one of the top bands in Italy.
It's a cross between bass players.
Yeah.
The older one and the younger one, the bald and, and the hairy. I've read something about your biography, and we began at the same age playing, probably 10 or 15 years difference. And because I began at 17.
Oh wow! Yeah,
too.
very late.
Yeah. We began late. What did you push towards the bass?
Well, I actually didn't choose to play bass. I was a guitar player when I was a kid, and then when I was 17, I was playing guitar in my high school's jazz band, and they had 3 guitar players and no bass player. So I think this is how a lot of bass players start. There's just there's no bass player. So my teacher handed me a bass, and I became a bass player.
Because in my case, there was this attraction when I was a kid to bass frequencies, listening to the Police records, Sting and Bob Marley and Iron Maiden, to all this different music, but with strong interest in, and so I was thinking about you and trying to ask you if there was any kind of bass hero.
Yeah, I think John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, and I was really into Paul McCartney and Sting. Yeah. I grew up listening to my dad's music, and my dad really loved classic rock. So that was the kind of stuff that I was into. But I also, even at that age, I was listening to Stevie Wonder and James Brown. So Bootsy Collins was kind of like my guy, my hero.
With the star
glasses.
How do you move in producing Snarky Puppy first and composing for Snarky Puppy, and then how do you move when you produce a mainstream pop record?
I don't really see any difference. I mean, and I don't really see any difference between playing bass and being a producer either. I mean, I think about, being a producer, being a good producer is just knowing how music is supposed to sound, right? And bringing out the important parts of the important moments. And so for me, even when we play tonight, I feel like everyone on the stage is thinking like a producer. There might be a trumpet player, might be a keyboardist, might be me playing bass, but we're all kind of thinking like producers. We're not just thinking, this is my bass part. We're thinking, what does the music need in this moment, and how can I help that? So for me, production is like a state of mind.
You play really connected to your instrument, and I'd like to ask you, but do you practice a lot, or did you practice a lot?
Yeah, these days I don't practice much because my time is being spent doing other things. But there was a period of time when I was in college, so from 18 to 22 years old, where I was practicing bass like 8 to 10 hours every day, for 4 years. And now that I don't have time to practice, I really rely on the work that I did way back then to kind of allow me to do the things that I want to do. And
I think many young players rely too much on technique and not so much on listening to records and trying to play.
Well, there's an old joke about the less notes that you play, the more money you get paid per note, which I think is a really funny thing. I think it's more about, if I had to speak to a young musician and give them advice, I would say, that technique, being able to play your instrument, is like the first step in being a good bass player or being a good musician. The next step is making decisions, musical decisions. And so I would say, to young musicians, as they're getting their technique together, also be thinking about what makes music sound good. Think of yourself as the first audience member.
I saw La La Land, the movie, and I think there's a kind of trying to put jazz again into mainstream world. What do you think about?
Yeah, I mean, I know that movie and also another movie called Whiplash, which were made by this by the same director.
With the drummer. Yeah.
Right, they both became very popular films. I know that the music community doesn't really, in general, at least my community, the people that I know, are not necessarily fans of those films.
Okay.
But everybody agrees it's nice that jazz is kind of becoming visible again. And I think if you look at people like, you know, Esperanza Spalding and Robert Glasper and Flying Lotus and Kamasi Washington and Gregory Porter, and there are a lot
They're crossing between,
yeah, and they're reaching audience members who previously have never listened to jazz, you know? So they're providing kind of like a gateway into the jazz world, which I think is cool, but I also don't think that jazz deserves attention if it's not good. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of people think, oh, jazz is important, it must be preserved and respected. Well, it's like, for me, it's like, only if it's good. It's like pizza or pasta is a beautiful thing when it's good, but when it's not good, let's not just keep eating it just because it's there. You know what I mean? It's like, it needs to be good. The cool thing about right now is that there are so many musicians in the jazz world who are making interesting, creative, accessible music that it's proving that it deserves to survive, and I think that's a great thing.
I'd like to see Snarky Puppy crossing between, like a cross between the hip hop world and the jazz world. Have you ever think about this? Trying to put your music in the hands of the hip hop world, on the R&B world, like the Roots did years ago? Yeah,
I mean, if the hip hop world wanted to take pieces of our thing and it's cool, it's interesting. I mean, I love that music and I love that world, and you know, the guys in the band all have very diverse musical interests, and many of them are hip hop heads.
Thanks a lot.
What do you think about the opportunities that internet can give to a musician or can take away?
Yeah, you know what, there's that phrase in the Bible, it's like the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, right? And the situation today is that we as artists make albums, we spend our own money making albums, and then we put them on all of these streaming networks because we are told correctly that if we don't, no one will be able to see us, you know, that will be invisible. And then the company makes money, and major labels, if they have the album, make money, and advertisers do well. And really the only people that don't get taken care of are artists. For us, it's kind of a strange situation because, like I said, we owe our existence to YouTube, but then at the same time, like, we're getting killed now by the fact that no one's buying music anymore.
And do you have a cure?
I mean, that's kind of like, do I have a cure for Donald Trump? You know what I mean? I mean, my solution, short term, is that our record label is transforming into an organization that will create exclusive content that you can't get on Spotify from different artists, as many artists as we can get, like videos or concerts or intimate private performances or interviews, and sell that on a subscription basis and pay the artists very well for it. And that's like our short-term plan. But the long-term plan is that there has to be a change legislatively, you know, and I think it involves these companies charging more money to the public for all this music. I mean, $10 a month for access to the entire world of recorded music and history of it is not, it's just not enough money to take care of people.
And what is the next record? How will be your next project?
We're going to record it next year, and it's going to come out with a film. I'm making a documentary about how different cultures learn music around the world, and so the record and the film will come out at the same time. And I wanted to do an album recording that went around the world and where we recorded different songs in different places, but it's too expensive.
Thank you very much.
No problem.